ESPN released a list of the top 25 true freshmen in college football through week 5 of college football. So this list is as recent as just a couple of days ago. And guess who was at the top of that list at number 1? Malaki Starks, Georgia Bulldog, freshman safety, guy that can play a lot of different positions, but safety is where he's playing in Silver Britches. And this does not come to my surprise, And I tried to tell you guys about Malaki Starks. I know a lot of you believe me, but I went and watched Malaki play a lot at Jefferson while he was a junior and a senior. I was at his commitment. I've met his family. I've spoken to him. I think the last time I spoke to him in person was on his commitment day. So I know a little bit about Malaki. I watched him play a lot of quarterback at Jefferson. But my point is, this is not surprising because of how athletic he is, how smart he is, just all around the football player and the person he is. This is a guy that, deserves what he's got right now, but has a long way to go. Just like any other player on this list, I'll go through some of the list. But what's important to talk about is who's at the top, and that's Malaki Starks. He was, he was a consensus 5-star, consensus top 20 guy. I think it kind of depended on who you ask if he was ranked in the top 10 or not. I know ESPN had him at 12 in their top 300, playing safety for Georgia. All of that and more. Make sure you're checking out DAWGSTRUCTION, our insider book. If you're watching this right now, we're actually live at Paloma Park. So make sure you're checking out that stream as well. And if you're in Athens, get on over and enjoy a couple of drinks with us and some Auburn pregame. But Malaki Starks, a guy who I think is important in this Auburn game. You're playing an inexperienced quarterback, and Malaki Starks is an inexperienced safety, but that doesn't mean he hasn't done a good job with what he's got. As far as what he's done at Georgia so far, he's second on the team in total tackles. Looks like he's third in solo tackles. Jamon Dumas-Johnson leading in both of those categories, but he's only behind Pop by 1 tackle. He's got the 2 interceptions which is tied with Christopher Smith for most on the team. Obviously, he had the ultra athletic interception against Oregon in his first, I think it was his first defensive drive. If it wasn't his first, it was his second of his college football career. One of the most impressive, not just interceptions, but catches that I've ever seen, at least recently. I mean, it was up there. I mean, it was an impressive catch where he really lunged out, had to turn around, lunge out, and grab the ball with his fingertips. This is a guy that played quarterback. This is a guy that played running back. This is a guy that played a little bit of receiver. This is a guy that lined up all over the defense. This is a guy that certainly can return kicks. I think it looks like to me he's maybe their 4th or 5th string kick punt returner. I know the punt guys are usually Lab McConkey, Dominic Blaylock, and Kyrus Jackson. And Kyrus Jackson and Dejon Edwards seem to be the 2 main kickoff returners. But Malaki Starks in warm-ups at Georgia games is in that rotation with them. So if something were to happen or if a decision was going to be made, Malaki Starks would be returning kicks. I certainly think that's probably a smart thing. Having the ball in his hands is impressive. His instincts are good. He's very fast. He's very smart. This is what Kirby Smart had to say about him on Monday. His mental aspect in between his ears gets him lined up, makes the checks, and helps him make decisions. I think his athleticism gives him confidence to be able to make plays. His mental intuition is what gets him on the field. His athleticism is what separates him from maybe other players. That I totally agree. As I drink out of my cup from Shakespeare's, you didn't see that. So you could tell from early on, and there's other guys on the beat that went and met Malaki, but you could tell from early on this guy was special, and now he's only played 5 college football games. He's got a long way to go. I don't think it's crazy to say at this point in time that he will be an NFL safety. I think he's the most talented player outside of Jalen Carter on Georgia's defense and maybe Georgia's team. I think he's one of the 5 most talented players on Georgia's team. I think he's one of the most, talented players in the country if you stack it up. Talent standpoint, he's got a long way to go to be best, but the dude is flying all over the field. He had what I consider to be an easy interception, but he was in the right place at the right time against Spencer Rattler against South Carolina. He could have had another acrobatic interception against Missouri a few days ago. That's definitely in the cards. He had probably the most important play in that game when he chased down the Missouri running back and tackled him at the 1-yard line, preventing a touchdown, and Georgia held Missouri to a field goal on that play. Kearis Jackson called that the play of the game. If you ask any of these players in the press conferences, none of them say anything that's too far from the fact that he's different. He is a different athlete. He's not normal. He's not typical, because he's a true freshman doing this, starting pretty much right away. Dan Jackson gets in there a lot too and helps relieve for him, but Malaki Starks is out there on most of the defensive snaps, and he's out there making an impact because how smart, how fast, and how athletic he is. He's one of the most impressive athletes on the team. This is what ESPN had to say about it. This is, Tom Van Haren and Tom Luginbull, college football analysts, said about him in their little analysis when they ranked him number 1. Starks was the former number 12 prospect in ESPN 300 and has played up to that billing so far in 2022. He plays like a veteran on a defense that lost 5 players in the first round of last year's NFL draft. He's mature, and the game is not too big for him. At times, he flashes his dominance. As Georgia's second leading tackler with 23 and 2 interceptions, Starks has proven he can play any position in the secondary. I think that's true. He could probably play corner. He could probably play nickel. He could probably play dime, but he's playing, for your strong safety, however you want to line it up. Him and Christopher Smith play very similar positions. I think he's capable of playing all those positions because I've seen him fly around in high school and do it. I know what I've seen in practice, in the practice media availabilities, and I know, Georgia's had a lot of really good safeties the last few years that have made an impact early on. Lewisine, the most recent one. Richard LeCount made impacts when he was out there when he was young, and so this isn't something that we're not used to. Malaki Starks is next in line, but what I'm saying is I think Malaki Starks is probably better than those players, and those guys are in the NFL. Lewisine was a first-round pick. Prayers up for Lewisine, by the way. That nasty injury. Hate to see that for any player, especially hate to see that for a dog. And Lewis is a really great guy. I love talking with Lewis, so I really hate to see that for him. I know he'll bounce back. He's another really athletic, really smart guy. Malaki reminds me a lot of Lewisine, but my overarching point is I think Malaki Starks is more talented than Lewis and Richard LeCount and Christopher Smith and J.R. Reed. I think he really is. I think he's the real deal at safety. I think this is a guy you'll hear called in a couple years in the first round of the NFL draft. I don't think that's crazy to say. That's my prediction. I think it will happen, and I think you'll continue to see him make plays this year. He's a starting player on this Georgia team. There are 2 starters as true freshmen for Georgia right now. They are Malaki Starks and Mykel Williams, and they were the 2 highest ranked players they recruited in this class. So immediate impact because there were holes to fill. Lewisine was a hole to fill. Trayvon Walker was a hole to fill. I feel strongly about Mykel Williams. I don't feel as strongly about him as I feel about Malaki Starks, but that's my take on Malaki Starks. That boy different. That's what they would tell you. I think those were Kearis Jackson's exact words. If they weren't his, they were someone else's on Georgia football team. Make sure you're going to the site dawgpost.com. Make sure you're checking out the link down below to look at DAWGSTRUCTION, our insider look at Georgia's national championship run. You can also pick that up at the Red Zone on Clayton Street in downtown Athens, our friends at the Red Zone. And I hope that you pull up to Paloma Park. See you there.